we have here the definition and the main objective for this chapter. Mainly, we are talking about why do we need procurements and purchasing in the first place for a company. And we will also talk about the difference between sourcing, procurements, and purchasing. So we are going to see what makes the difference between these three terminologies: sourcing, procurement, and purchasing. And we'll see briefly how to manage this whole process. Please remember, we are talking about a situation where in a company, for instance, you need a raw material. You need a specific product. Let's think of Wärtsilä, for instance. You are manufacturing an engine, a ship engine, for instance. You need to buy some raw materials from different countries. So now the question is, how do you identify the correct and the right products to buy? How will you set the price? How will you keep a very good relationship between you and the supplier for a long time so that you are sure that you will be having that same product being delivered to you when you need it? So these are some things that we'll be talking about in this course, especially in this chapter. So now, as you can clearly see, this is the definition that we can have of procurement. So mainly it's a process where you try to find, and after finding what you are looking for as a product or service, you now move on to the next stage where you agree on the terms and conditions that allow you to buy that good or product or service. And there are different ways where this can be done. In some cases, as you can see, it can be via tendering or competitive bidding process. Now, that we will talk about in the chapter 3, where we will see the methods and the approach used to choose the correct supplier if you are having options, let's say 3 or 4 suppliers. Now, how can you choose the right supplier so that you have a kind of very good relationship and you buy the correct and the right product for your business? And it's all start by identifying the goods, the product, or the service. And you are buying this from an external sources. And your main objective is to satisfy your own customer. So mainly you are buying from suppliers to manufacture something, and at the end of the day, you sell that to your customer. And in the process, you want to make sure that your end customer is satisfied or is happy. So it will also be about paying the right price. Remember, we will see later that this is not about if the product is cheap or not. You're talking about the right price. And in the process, you want to save time and also minimize if you make a costly mistake in the future. Because if you were to be buying something from far away from Brazil to Finland, and if you make a mistake, well, to correct that mistake will take time and resources. Okay, so that is the brief definition that we can give to a purchasing. So for a purchasing, to recap, first you identify what you want to buy. Then you move to the terms and negotiation that you can set in place so that you are able to buy at the right price. So all these transactions, from identifying the goods, buying it, and bringing them to yourself, we can call that a procurement. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to purchasing, well, it's just a process where an organization or an individual buy a product or service. And in this, you are talking about a process where the acquisition process is being taken care of, from requisition to purchase order, the product receipts to payment. We will come back to to that. Sorry, it looks like you're not seeing my screen. Yeah. Please, can you see my screen now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Okay, great. So these are the key components that you have when it's come to purchasing. So as we are going to see in one short video now, there is a difference between purchasing and procurement. Okay, so for the purchasing, well, talking about how much am I buying this? What are the different steps that I'm taking from asking for the price, asking for the quote, till me buying the product and making the payment. Well, if some of you have taken with me already this course entitled SAP, well, we have this process in SAP. You do it you do it in real life, how companies do that. But maybe you take this course with me in the next in the fall or something like that. So you come back to that again. Okay. So now these are the goals of purchasing. So remember, it is not only about buying a raw material at the lowest price, but then you want to reduce the costs of the final product. And that is very important, please. We all know that sometimes you can buy something which is cheap, but at the end of the day, it's turned that that product is more expensive because the quality is not there. You have to repair it or so on and so forth. So it is not about if the product is sold at a cheaper price, but it is about how you are able to reduce the costs of the final product. Are you able to give a good product, a quality product to your customer? That is what the whole thing is about. Okay, now at this point, let's check this short video. It's making the difference between procurement and purchasing. And after the video, we do continue. So let's see how we're able to play this video. Just a minute. Hi. Well, I think it is better if I stop sharing first and I share with optimization so that you're able to hear, also to have the audio. So now screen one, share, and tell me if the audio is not good. So so please, is the audio good?
Yes.
Okay, good. So
they're a very high quality iron.
I mean, they perform great.
Welcome to Education Leaves. In this video, I am going to discuss the difference between procurement and purchasing. Let's start the video. Procurement and purchasing are the two terms that are often used interchangeably. If you ask a layman about the difference, you may get a reply that purchasing and procurement are one and the same, but if you ask the same question to a manager, you'll get a significantly longer answer as to how and why there's a world of differences between purchasing and procurement. Let's discuss what is procurement. Procurement refers to the process of identifying, shortlisting, selecting, and acquiring suitable goods or services from a third-party vendor through direct purchase, competitive bidding, or tendering process, while ensuring timely delivery of the right quality and quantity. What is purchasing? Purchasing is the set of functions associated with acquiring the goods and services that an organization requires. Purchasing is a small subset of the broader procurement function. This process includes activities like ordering, expediting, receiving, and fulfilling payment. Let's explain the differences between procurement and purchasing. The end goal of procurement is to identify the company's needs and fulfill the procurement of those needs. It is a strategic and proactive process. On the other hand, the end goal of purchasing is to arrange company expenditure and buy goods and services for the company. It is a reactive process. In procurement, places more importance on an item's value than how much it costs. But in purchasing, more focused on price than value. Procurement involved in the end-to-end activities that needed to acquire all necessary goods and services. Procurement does everything from need recognition to sourcing, contract closure, and record keeping. Purchasing gets involved when it's time to buy goods and services. Tasks involved in purchasing are ordering, expediting, and payment. Procurement focused on developing long-term and a win-win relationship with suppliers. On the other hand, purchasing focused on making efficient transactions, not overly concerned with developing vendor relations. If you want to read in details or download the PDF, go through the link in the description.
Okay, so I hope you have seen the difference between procurement and purchasing. So in one case as a procurement, you're more talking about strategy. Where should we buy? Who should we choose as our supplier? And what kind of a product do we want to buy? And what is going to be the relationship between me as a company and my supplier? So as you can see, it is much more deeper and extensive than just purchasing, which is just buying something. Well, when I'm just buying, I may just buy once and that's it. I'll not buy from that person again. But in the process of a procurement, it should be a long-term relationship so that there is no disruption in my supply chain. If I'm buying from that specific supplier for my products or for my production line to satisfy the needs of my customer. Okay. So, sorry.
Hi.
Now, let's now shift our attention to strategic sourcing. Remember, the whole process starts with sourcing. That's the first step of procurement. So how we source and how it starts from there and what it means for that. And then also it will be about those who are involved in this whole process of sourcing. Well, to do that, as you know already, we will proceed with breakout rooms. So that gives you also the opportunity to learn from your colleagues, and it's much more interactive so that I will not be the only one doing the talking. So we are 18 in the group. So if I make 7 groups now, we will have 7 breakout rooms. I will just send you to the room automatically. And I will just give you, say, 3 minutes. And your assignment is to analyze, to explain this to each other in your group, what a strategic sourcing is and who are those involved in making the strategic sourcing decision in a company. So first, what is a strategic sourcing? And secondly, who are those involved in making strategic sourcing decision in a company? I'll give you, say, 4 minutes and 10 seconds to come back. And that is it. And I'll I'll open all rooms and you are free to join the room. So when you come back, I'll call on each room to tell us what you have been discussing with your peers in your room. So let's have 3 minutes for that or 4 minutes for that.
Hi. Hi. What was the tehtävä?
IDK.
Mitä?
IDK.
Okei. Tehdäänkö se?
Jotain, mitä se on siinä viime diassa oli? Mitä se just näytti?
Mä en tiedä.
Joo.
Ai niin, meidän pitää puhua englantia.
Joo. Mm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Öö,
Mä koitan
Missä se löytyy? Se dia siis. Niin.
managing, mikä? Managing procurement. Oot.
Ja meillä on se 3, eikö niin?
Yeah, I think it's so. So, it's in English. What is procurement? Varmaan. Vai oot? Mistä on?
Mä en tiedä. Developing the sourcing strategy. Vai? Missä me ollaan?
No, musta se on aina ei. Mä koko
Hey, I'm sorry. Do you remember which one we had?
The question is, what is strategic sourcing and who is involved in decision making related to strategic sourcing? So we should discuss about that.
Could you tell me in which slide was it on?
Wait
you
a
can see it.
second. It's on 8th.
8.
Yeah.
Yes, found it. So, are we supposed to make like a small presentation about it or just talk about it?
No, just we can talk about and share each other's findings.
Okay.
What is most transformational process performed at an organizational level? Strategic person takes the procurement process further, examining the roles, dynamic.
So I found that the strategic sourcing is a way of buying goods and services so that the organization will get the best value for the resources they are paying me. What do you guys think?
I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found that I mean it's almost the same thing. It's about thinking smart, where, how, and from whom a company buys things, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's all about saving money and getting better products and build a stronger partnership.
Understanding what your company is buying from who, in what quantity, and what price. Yeah. Is
Yeah.
this collaborating with
I think that's good enough.
Your mic is off.
Yes. So now tell us. So what have you been talking about in your room? Let me still share the screen. Share desktop number 1. So now let's start with group number 6. Please tell us, what have we been talking about?
Oh, that was surprised. It was 6 and not number 1.
Yes. Was that Johanna?
Yes, Johanna
Oh,
here.
Johanna, well, nice to see you again in this course, huh?
Yes, me
Please
and
go ahead.
Melissa were talking about this strategic purchasing and sourcing and who will be making the decisions. And we talked about the decision making, that it will be the management, head of management, but they need, of course, the input from the different teams from the factory or the plant, for example, for the sourcing team and purchasing, and of course the quality team. And of course they have to take into notion what kind of global situations, geopolitical situations are going on, and in case there are some sanctions for different countries. So that was one point. And what the strategic sourcing is, well, one point could be also this sanctions, because nowadays there are quite strict rules. For example, that some products cannot anymore use steel or iron coming from our eastern neighbor country in Finland, for example. And then, of course, what kind of a cost impact we are considering, because if we want to make a quality, it also can cost a lot. But in case we want to make a lot of products, we have to consider that we will need a mass amount of components or raw materials. So we have to consider that from the point of quality as well.
That is true. Thank you very much, Johanna. That was a very good input. Well, Johanna, when you are talking about these geopolitical issues, yeah, that is extremely important. If you don't pay attention to that, well, you will be in a hot soup. Yeah. Now let's come to room number 4. Please tell us, who are those making this kind of strategic decision for sourcing the company? Who are those responsible for that?
For example, manufacturing and procurement managers make decision.
Yep.
In our opinion.
Or was that Shaida, please, right? Or Daria?
Yes, Daria. Maybe.
Okay. Yes.
Someone have another opinion.
Yeah, you are right. So is there the top guy? We call them the C-level team. They're the big boss, right?
Yes.
The CEO, COO, CFO, so on and so forth. Please remember, in every company, we have different level of decision-making process. So we have first the strategy and the implementation or the tactics. So the strategy is at the topmost level. They don't make smaller kind of decision, but they make the big decision as to the strategy of the company. Now, if you come back to the example of Johanna, for instance, well, a company in Finland can decide, well, because of our strategy and because of political issues, we are not buying any raw material from Russia. So that is a strategic decision. Now, if you are just a procurement specialist in the company, well, it is not up to you to make that decision. No, because it's the main boss who are deciding where you should source from. You can be very good as a procurement specialist to source, to identify the best material. But before you start that, you need to consult the top guys and ask, where are we going? Are we going to source only in Europe, or only in Africa, or only in Asia? So that is the top level decision. So after they have made that decision, now you can now start to implement it or to move to the tactical level where you start sourcing. And the issues about geopolitics is also equally important. Now let's take room number 1. So do you have any other input that you want to add to this? That is Ida and Johan, please. Room number 1, please. Do you want to add something else?
Sorry, what was the question?
The question was that you want to add something more to this.
No, I think Johan rounded up pretty well there. But yeah, I think the decisions are done in the higher levels of the firms.
Yeah, true. And remember, you need to also make an internal evaluation, because the decision that you make today is going to carry the company for so many years to come. If it is a wrong decision, then it will punish the whole company. So that is why you need this internal requirement or internal evaluation, so that you are on the the better side in your decision-making process. Now, look at this. You will not go to breakout rooms for this, but I will just give you a few minutes to analyze that individually and just look at the picture. And we are talking about a very important topic in strategic sourcing. It's called TCO, total cost of ownership. Total costs of ownership. So look at this and tell us what it means. And I'll give you 2 minutes for that. And I'll call somebody from room number 2 and 3 and 5 to tell us how they understand this. So if you belong to room number 2, room number 2, 3, and 5, be prepared to make a comment about this image. And this is about total cost of ownership. Okay, so now let's take this together. So first of all, the definition is simple and straightforward. Total cost of ownership, that is TCO. But then the question is, what does that mean? What do we mean by a total cost of ownership? Please, can we pick somebody from room number 3? That is the room of Isha, Madeleine, and Suita. Please, how do you understand this total costs of ownership? I hope you guys are still there. Is Isha there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so it falls on you. So please tell us, how do you understand this image about TCO?
Okay, it probably shows the importance of different parts of the total cost approach. And in the surface is what, for example, people see, and then under the surface is what's behind the organization, for example. Like, that's how I got it.
Yep, that's a good explanation already. So
Okay.
do you mean that at the top, we have the purchase cost, right? Yep. Let me use this. Okay, that's the purchase costs.
Yes.
But then under the water, we have the demand drivers. So please tell us, did you see the demand drivers here? Of course, this is not only to Isha, but what about Mandelaine Suita and then also not Daria? Kajugano and no, Shada also spoke. No, Shada also. So what do you think? What do we mean by demand drivers in this particular case? Yep. What do you mean by that? Demand drivers that you have here, and that is under the water. You don't see it. But
yeah, probably everything that's behind the purchase cost, like the hidden costs.
Yeah.
Like the quality cost, for example. You won't see it on the surface, but once you start to like the I'm so sorry. My English is really not good right now.
Your English is good, Isha. Don't worry about your English. It's very good. Yes.
Okay.
I have it
So once
using
you
2
start
courses.
the process, then you
Mhm.
start seeing the quality cost and maintenance expenses and every hidden expenses in the process. That's
Yeah,
how I
that's
see the demand driver.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely true. So should we conclude by this that if you want to buy something, well, of course, even if you are buying today, sometimes you may be tempted to see only the costs, the price, but sometimes you don't see what is behind, right? We may not see what is behind. That is, but in strategic sourcing, it is extremely important. I don't know if you guys have an example about something that a company has bought, but after some times it was a bad decision and it has affected their image. I'll give an example. If you're buying a raw material to manufacture a mobile phone, for instance, and later on you find out that these raw materials are produced in a factory where they use children to do the child labor. So you see how this can affect the image of your company already. So when you're buying the product, the price may be pretty good, quite okay, but there are a lot of things that are behind that price, that cost that you may not see. And it is also important to see them. And that is what we call the demand drivers, the unseen. But all these, if you check them very well, that determine the actual opportunity or the actual costs of the product. So first, what we can see, and second, what we cannot see, and third, a total of what we can see and what is not seen. And that determines the total cost of ownership of what you are buying. So as we are going to see in the next chapters, we will clearly identify some issues that companies may have if they don't make a proper strategic sourcing, and that will affect their image a lot and also affect their business. And it's equally important to also pay attention to the supplier relationship, and that you come back to it also again later. Okay, if you have a question, please feel free to ask before we take the next group discussion. So now at this phase, we are talking about the processes and phases of procurement. All the steps and all the phases that you have under procurement. So we have 7 steps or 7 phases. So as you can guess already, we will go back to our rooms. And if you belong to room number 1, please take step 1. If you belong to room number 2, please take step 2. But it looks like some of the rooms do have only 1 person, so I'm going to recreate the rooms again so that you can all have somebody to talk with. So we have this and recreate, and I think I will give you say 4 minutes for that and 10 minutes to come back. Now this is what you're supposed to do. So look for a definition of each step. If you are taking, for instance, step 1, strategic sourcing team meeting, and try to see if you can have some example that can explain that and help us to understand it. Okay, so that is what we have, and I'll open all the rooms, and that is for 7 minutes. So let's do that.
Hey, have you found anything on the strategic part, like the first one?
I'm watching the slides. It is said that we should define the current needs and evaluate internal requirements, and we can define whether to make or buy, and we should understand the resources, capabilities, and processes available outside the firm. But I don't get it.
Okay. What I found is that a strategic sourcing team meeting is a plan session where the key people involved in purchasing and supply decision come together to analyze sourcing needs.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, isn't that enough? Like procurement, purchasing managers, and okay, well, yeah, we were to look for the definition only, right?
Hello, did you find some information? I tr
Yeah, there was some in the slide.
I just try to find what we can say about it, but it's about how we need to create source strategic with your team, or what we should talk about. I cannot understand.
Yes, I think that was right.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome back. Now let's start with the room number one. So in your opinion, what do we mean by strategic sourcing team meeting? Remember, this is the first step for the whole procurement. So first, you have a team meeting, and this is a strategic sourcing team meeting. So what do we mean by that? Room number one, please go ahead.
So the strategic sourcing team meeting is a key step where companies purchasing team gets together and they make a buying decisions. In this meeting, they figure out what exactly the company needs and understand its department requirements and decide whether to buy or make. And in this, they learn about resources and skills they need to buy or to make the products they need.
Was that Suita?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that is a nice definition. So, did you have any example to illustrate that?
I'm sorry, I don't have any.
No, that's okay. That's okay. What about the other members? Did you have any example to explain this step one?
We did.
No. Are you talking about group number one?
Yes, group number one still, yes.
No, we do not have any examples. I mean, I do not have any examples on this.
Okay. Yeah, but your definition is clear actually when you're talking about, well, are we going to buy or make it ourselves. For instance, while your company, your department want to buy some product, you need something to buy. So now you sit down, you meet, you talk, you brainstorm, you say, well, we need to buy this from a supplier. So that is just the first step. So your need, what you need, what do I need to buy? Let's assume you are called VAMC, our university. Well, we need to buy a printer. Okay, that's good. What kind of printer do we need to buy? Where should we buy it from? So that's how it all starts. Thank you very much for the team number 1 for step 1. Now let's continue with step 2, and that is room number 2. Please, all over to you.
So it means analyzing and understanding the external market conditions where a company gets its goods or services, and this can include who the suppliers are, how many there are, their strengths and weaknesses, and market trends and prices, and so forth.
So you are looking for the potential suppliers, right?
Yes.
Does your group has any example to explain this more?
Yes, we do. So, for example, a retail company is looking to transition to eco-friendly packaging and would begin by exploring the supply market for sustainable options.
Yep.
And this includes identifying suppliers that provide biodegradable or recycled packaging materials, comparing their products offerings and pricing, and evaluating their compliance with environmental regulations, for example.
Yeah, that's a very good example. Yes, perfect. So I hope that the whole class now understand what you mean by assessing the supplier markets. What are the criteria? Who should we buy from, or things like that? And that was also a very good example. Thank you very much for room number 2. Now, Silrava is room number 3, developing the sourcing strategy. So please, all over to you, room 3.
I think we were number 3 with Melissa again. Yes, so we had an ongoing example for these all the question parts that what happens in United States currently and how it affects for the companies all around the world. So we decided to think about sourcing strategy as to minimize for the raw materials and components which are from China. So that was the sourcing strategy we were trying to go on, and we were already thinking about what are the other possible countries or continents where to buy similar raw materials or components that we currently are buying from China. And of course, this for the new suppliers, possible suppliers, we should have audits and try to request certain information, or that to have the proposals for them in case we are thinking about stop ordering aluminum from China. Then we maybe could order it from Iceland, but still there are some risks depending on Iceland as well. So we need to see through these and have audits at the supplier plants.
Well, that's also a very good explanation. Yes. So check the risks first, the costs, and proceed. Very good. So as you can see, the process that Johanna and the group has listed. So first, you request for information, that is RFI. Then you request for proposal. And if this continue, we will go to RFQ, request for quotes, so on and so forth, till we get the actual price of the product, we buy it, and we make the payment. Okay, so that's how it goes. So that is what we mean by developing the sourcing strategy. I don't know if in the group 3, Melissa want to ask something, or should we go to step number 4?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, so Johanna explains this well from your group. So for your group, And this one also is very important. Visit the sites and have a follow-up discussion. Now, let's think of, for instance, a company in Nigeria that wants to buy a power plant from Varsila. Because of the size of the products, they may decide to come to Finland, visit the sites, have different discussion, follow-up discussion before they even decide to buy. And so this happens depending on the size of the product or the frequency that you are buying this. Even in the case of aluminum, for instance, well, you may decide to go to the site and see where it is made before being shipped to you. So you are checking all of this. Why? You are building a long-term relationship. We are not talking here about you just buying once and that is all. No. As we are going to see when we continue with this course. And supplier selection. Thank you very much. And now, number 4, executing the sourcing strategy. And that is the room number 4, please.
I don't know if you understood correctly, but it's like putting a plan into action to find and choose the best suppliers to a company. And it's like it's a goal to make sure the company gets what it needs, like a good price with good quality and on-time delivery and with low risks. That's what I understood.
And that is correct. And remember, if your company wants to buy some computer, 1,000 computers, for instance, okay. So they open a bid, we'll come back to that, and they ask people, please sell us these computers. So people will send the proposal, the RFP, and you will check from maybe 25 customers or suppliers, and you shortlist to 4. And you want to proceed with these 4 to the buying or to the choice of the correct supplier. Okay, so that is how you go into the executional phase of the sourcing strategy. First, you issue the information, RFI. You get a quote or the proposal, and you screen and you choose the correct one and the one that is suitable for you before you move on to choose the supplier. Because at the end of the day, you are choosing only one supplier anyway. But you need to do all this screening process before you choose the right supplier. So, thank you, room 4. Room 5 is going to be about the implementation and the integration of the contractual agreement. Remember, we assume that you have chosen the supplier already. So what should be the next stage? So step 5, and that is room number 5.
Yes. So that stage refers the stage after a contract is signed with a supplier, where both parties start actually working together and making the deal operational. It's about putting the contract into practice and integrating the supplier's processes with the buyer's system. And the goal is to ensure the contract delivers its intended value by making the collaboration smooth, efficient, and sustainable.
Yep, that is correct. Was that Paolo, please?
Yes, it was.
Okay, Paolo, thank you very much. So you see, it is not an easy task. You know, in the step 4, we are talking about, well, choosing the correct supplier. Please, this step 4, we have a full chapter for that. We are coming back to it again later. How to choose the right supplier. And after that, you are making the paperwork. It is equally important. And sometimes you need to talk to your lawyers and all these things. So like room 5 mentioned, if you're able to do that successfully, then you are able to start business and then sustainable and durable relationship with that particular supplier. Okay, so thank you very much for your input. Now we talk about the next step, step 6, supplier performance measurements and improvement. So please, room number 6. It looks like we don't have anybody in that room. So, well, then now we will take it together. So remember, having a supplier is not just enough. Now you need to keep on checking that same supplier to see if they are doing things according to what you have agreed, according to plan. So that is why we have the issue of making the measurements. So you have your KPIs, key performance indicators. So you try to check their delivery time. They have promised that they will deliver the product from India to Finland in 2 weeks. So have they done that? Yes, you check. And the defect rates. So they say, well, all our products do not have any defects. So they come to Finland, you check the product, there is no defect, you check it. And what is the responsiveness of the supplier? You check, and then all of this. So you measure it for a period of time, and that will tell you if your supplier is a good one or not. And it's also a process of monitoring the supplier to see if you can continue your relationship with that supplier. Okay, so that is what we do in step 6. And the last step is the maintenance of records and relationships. So, Laura and Johan, please, what do you have to say?
Yes, the maintenance of records and relationships is about to maintain the legal requirements and meet the set standards in the relationships. So the maintenance should be efficient and well organized, including storing, securing, and destroying records or information that is being used in business activities. For example, a business must store their receipts for accounting.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, yes. You're absolutely right. Oh, that was Laura, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. And that one huge advantage that companies do have today is SAP system. By the way, have you taken that course already, SAP? From what school? Have you taken it already?
No, we haven't yet.
Okay, okay. Maybe I may have you in this course when school resume after summer. Now, when you take the SAP course, you will see that everything that you are doing is kept in the system. And it's a very strongly built system to the way that, well, if there is an issue about a specific customer, you just go to the system, you input the name of the customer, you have all details and transactions about that customer. It's very effective. Because if you don't have this maintenance of records, then it is very difficult to handle issues that may arise. So that is equally important. And that is the last stage of procurement. So to recap, for a successful procurement management, well, first, you source by having a team meeting to know your needs, what you want to buy. Are we going to buy internally? Are we going to make it ourselves? Or are we going to buy it from outside? Now, after that, you try to assess the whole supply market. Well, okay, are we going to source from China, Brazil, Nigeria, or where are we going to do that? So you make a market research to understand the supplier's capability to even sell you that particular product. And now you move on to the development of the sourcing strategy. So it could be about, well, are we going to buy from a single supplier, a multiple supplier? Are we going to buy locally or globally? Are we going to have a short-term or long-term relationship with the supplier or the suppliers? So you do that as a sourcing strategy. And now the step 4 is to execute that sourcing strategy. Now at this stage, you are now out. You are outside your company because from step 1, 2, and 3, this is done internally. Okay. Now from step 4 going, now you go out. You start to talk to different suppliers Okay, so please, can you sell this to us? Can you supply us this or not? So you check few suppliers, and you may even make a short list of suppliers. And if you are able to secure a supplier or few suppliers that you want to deal with, then you go ahead to step 5 to implement the whole strategy or the agreement with the supplier, mainly paperwork. And with your chosen suppliers, you try to measure them. You have your clearly defined KPIs, key performance indicators, to see if we have made a good decision by choosing this or that supplier. Are things in order? So you monitor the progress and the process, the whole process, to see if you will keep your relationship with that supplier or not. And finally, you keep a good records, a good paperwork to check if everything is in order. So that's how it is done. Okay, if you have a question, please do ask before we take just few slides. Then we are done for the day. And we are even done with the whole chapter soon. And in this particular stage, we are talking about how to manage the sourcing and the procurement processes. Please, this is actually fundamental to the success of the whole process. How you manage the sourcing, those you are dealing with, the suppliers, how do you manage them? How do you work with them? And how do you handle the whole procurement process? Now, to do that, we normally use this 3-step approach. And this you can adjust according to the needs of your company or your organization. And this is what is done in step 1. We determine the type of purchase and level of investments. 2, perform the procurement process. And 3, now you proceed to the evaluation of the effectiveness of the strategic sourcing process. So now, this is the step 1, simply define with an example. Now we are talking about you determining the type of purchase and the level of investment that you want to have. So clearly you need to categorize your purchases based on their complexity and impact. So how much resource do you have allocated to this? And you see this example, are we going for the routine purchases or a strategic investment? I don't know if you guys understand this, because in a company, sometimes you may just say, well, we want to buy papers for our printer. Well, that is just a routine purchase. So you don't need to think about that much. You just go and buy, right? But then if you're talking about strategic investments that involve a capital equipment or a huge amount of money is involved, well, you need to be careful. Else, if you make a mistake, well, the price you are going to pay is huge. If you make a mistake in buying a paper, well, that's not a big deal. You can just go to another shop and buy. That's okay. But for some products, you cannot afford to make a mistake. Okay. And you need to take into account how urgent it is and the budget constraints that you have and the level of the risks also. Now, for the step 2, where you perform the procurement processes itself, remember we spoke about that briefly. First, you need something. You make your own needs assessments. Do we need this or not? Secondly, you choose the supplier, you make the contracts, and you have the product delivered to you, and you make the payment. So as simple as that. And in the process, you proceed by RFI, like we have seen, RFP, RFQ. So all this you take into account in the step-by-step approach of procurement process. Now, this will be our last discussion. I'm just wondering if you can do this in a group. But I would like you to have a look at this. And then the reason behind this is that we may have some exam questions from this image. This is a strategic portfolio matrix for category management. So we are talking about risk and complexity against the value or profit potential. And we have four main quadrants. In this quadrant, you have four main stuffs. So a distinctiveness and strategy, commodity, and generic. So it's all about what you are buying. And we are coming back to this a little bit. Is this about just a routine purchase where it is not so important? Or is this about strategic investment? So please have a look at this and tell us what it means when we are comparing the risk and complexity against the value or profit potential. So you can just pick one and tell us how you understand this. Let me give you 2 minutes for that, and then I'll call somebody from any of the groups to tell us what he thinks about that. And after that, we just round up with the last slide. Okay, so let's start. So who want to take the first one for us? Just please feel free to pick anyone and tell us how you understand it. Let me not call anybody from any group. So who wants to start?
I can start.
That's Johanna, please.
Yes,
Please
Johanna.
go ahead, Johanna.
Yes, I was reading this through, and very much this strategics one made me think, because since we still have this war between Russia and Ukraine, or the war that Russia began. And when it began, it affected the global markets and prices for the transportation hugely. And I remember we were discussing at work that one competitor to us, because copper is very important when you are producing electric motors. For the stator, inside the motors, there is stator and there is a little copper wire wound up. So that is important part for the motor. And of course, the prices for copper went up very high. So we heard that the competitor had bought their warehouse full of copper. I mean, it was a huge investment, but nobody knew at that point how long the situation would go on and what would happen for the prices, because you cannot get copper basically anywhere from Europe, and you cannot just go to the shop and buy it for yourself for to make a jewelries or something like that. So it's one of the, well, to have it was a high risk and high value, of course, but of course it ended up well for them.
So the question is, will that affect your business if you don't have the copper? Yes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. That's it. And do you get a high profit if you use the copper to make your end product? Yes, right?
Yes, if the customer is ready to pay, you cannot make your prices go up eventually too long either.
Yeah, true. So yes, Johanna, you're absolutely right. As you can clearly see here, you're talking about the strategic part is both a high risk. The risk is at the highest level here. And the value of that item is also at the highest level. So this is what you can have here. This is the highest level of both risk and profit. So please, if you are making a sourcing for a company, you cannot make a mistake here. No. If you make a mistake here, then you are in a very serious trouble, and you may even lose your job. This one for sure. Because the money being involved here is huge, and the level of risk is also huge. So Johanna made one good example. And now let's think also about a kind of a part that you use in an airplane, right? Well, if that part is defective, it can bring the whole plane down. It's possible. So you see the level of the risks. It may be a small part, but you cannot afford to have a cheap one or under quality parts if you are using this in the aviation industries. Else, well, it may cause accidents and people will die. So if you have this kind of product that you are sourcing for, then you are talking about distinctives and strategics. And if at the same time, that material is also expensive, if you use it to make a final product, then we are in this stage here, strategic product that you are sourcing for. So high risk and high value. Okay, so thank you very much, Johanna, for your input. Now, who want to take the one of the three remaining one for us?
I can take the next one. So
is it Shaida, please?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So about generics, there are products or services that are both in that are low both in risk and value. These are often everyday items that are easy to buy, have many available suppliers, and don't require any specific technical specifications because they're so common and inexpensive. And the main goal when managing generics is to keep the purchasing process efficient and low cost, and often through automation or long-term supply agreements. Like, for example,
go ahead, please. Yes.
A company buys a printer, paper, as you said, and the cleaning supplies for the office, and these are low cost and easy to find and have many suppliers.
That is true. So if the quality of the papers are not good, well, nobody's going to complain. There's no risk. Nobody's going to die, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's a very good point also. So yeah, so Shaida, if the paper is bad, so is it going to cost somebody's life? No.
Absolutely not. No.
Yep.
There's very little risk.
Yeah.
In any of these, like generics.
Yeah. And that is why you don't put a lot of resources in sourcing for this kind of generic products. There's no need for that, Yeah. The value is low. The risk is also low. So what? Let it be. Great. Thank you very much. Now, who want to take the distinctives or commodities one for us?
I can take the distinctives.
Emma, please go ahead.
Yes, so they refer to products or services or features that stand out from the competition due to their unique attributes, design, or quality. And unlike generics, which are standardized and often not changed, distinctives offer something different or specialized that adds to the value. Like maybe you can take, for example, Nike Air Jordans that are usually only limited editions and vary much, which are not like you cannot buy them every time when you go to the store.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, that's absolutely true. So it's a kind of a high risk product. And of course, the value may not be so high, but still equally important. And of course, finally, the commodities one, of course, you see is the value is high, but the level of the risks may not be so high. So we are, for instance, talking about some packaging materials or basic logistic services or some specific raw materials. So low risk, but high value. Okay. So this is what we can say from this Kraljic, don't know how to pronounce this Kraljic matrix, or it's also called category positioning matrix also. So it is used heavily in assessing the procurement process. Okay, thank you. And finally, we have the step 3, how to evaluate the effectiveness of the strategic sourcing process. So we are talking about asset procurements, or when you are involved in the procurement already, while you check, you monitor to see how it is going. Remember the key metrics, KPIs, okay? And if it is a project, even after the project is done, well, you need to have some review meetings or a lesson learned meetings to see if things went well or if you need to make some adjustments in future projects or contract or not. So that is basically these 3 steps that can be followed. Okay, so that was it for today. Thank you very much for your participation. Hopefully, I will see you again next time when we continue or when we take the step 2. But now that you are there, I would like to draw your attention quickly to that. Let me quickly check that so that you will not be surprised when I made a small change to the schedule. I was saying that for this individual assignment, yes, that carries 5 points. Well, this we are going to do on supplier selection and relationship on 28th of April. So if you come to the class on this day, you don't need to do this assignment again because you are going to do this in the class. So you do it in the class and you get a 5 point in the class already. It is if you are not in the class that day, then you need to do it and submit it later. So I hope this is clear. So for these individual assignments, if you just come to the class on 28th of April, we are going to do it together already. So you don't need to do it again on your own at home because you do it in the class and you get the 5 points for that already. Okay. Thank you very much for your time. If you have a question, please, you may ask. Else we'll end the class here and we meet again in 10 days. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Suita, please feel free to send me the recordings and I will upload to the rest of the class.
Yes, I will send you later.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. See you and have a good evening.